I'm Matt.
I'm Shane, and you are about to listen to an excerpt from a Comic Movie Marks podcast.
So if you like what you hear, make sure you hit that like button real hard, and make sure you subscribe to Comic Movie Marks. And always remember,
if Trailer Trash can do it,
anyone can do it. Okay, after all that sad news, let's get in some happy shit here.
Oh yeah.
With Black Panther coming out in less than a week, we're going to talk about now our favorite / best origin movies, comic book origin movies ever.
Yes, and I want to preface this one just like I did the last one. This list was incredibly tough.
This one was much harder for me than the worst. Worst was pretty clear cut for me. I knew exactly what I wanted to hit.
Yeah, I moved a couple things around in the worst, but this one, I went as far as removing some from my actual top 6 and putting them in honorable mentions. I kind of went back and forth. I knew what my top was. That was easy. Everything else was kind of all over the place, and and I had to really think about the stories and the characters and all sorts of shit to come up with my list. So it was a lot. I put a lot of work into this, so please view it on YouTube.
Or in our podcast.
Yes. Yeah, that too.
Somewhere in there. Yeah, again, these are our favorite, and again, these are all super close. These are very, very close movies. So if like your favorite one is one of our honorable mentions, I mean, don't think like, oh, you guys are idiots. That thing is, this is all tight, It
is, yeah.
These are all within less than a decimal point of each other.
Yeah.
On like our point system or my rating system or something like that. So there's not really a definitive one here.
Right.
Well, I might as well make a top 6 all tied for first.
I will say my first is I kind of have it up on its own pedestal for different reasons, but it's from two on. But the number one is kind of, that was key. But yeah, for everything else, I moved a lot, everything around from 2 to 6 to honorable mentions. Like I said, I was moving them around, trying to really think about it. They fluctuated, and as Matt said, don't think we're a bunch of big fucking idiots. It is our list, ultimately what we decided to come up with, but it was tough, really hard to come up with this. Not like the other one where we're like, fuck this movie.
Yeah, fuck Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So, all right. So my first honorable mention is X-Men First Class.
All right, I have that on my honorable mentions as well.
And my other honorable mention is Batman Begins.
What the fuck? I have that on my honorable mentions as well. Real quick side story on Batman Begins. I've come to appreciate this a little bit more. If you remember in 2005 when it first came out, Matt and I walked out of the theater and we're like, that is a fucking awful movie.
Yeah.
We texted our friend who's a huge Batman fan. We've had him on this podcast before. We'll have him on again, but Mike from California, he's a huge Batman fan, and we texted him. We're like, dude, that movie sucks, because he had moved at that point, and so he didn't view it with us, and we're like, that movie sucks. It's horrible. As years have kind of progressed and we watched it again, and he even reached out to me, Mike did, and said, that movie's not as bad as I originally thought. And I've come to respect it a little bit more.
The problem with me, I remember, was the Bale voice, the Bat voice.
Where were the other drugs going?
I never knew. I don't know. I swear to God.
Swear to me!
I remember when he first strings up the fat guy, and he fucking starts yelling at him.
Yeah.
Answer to me!
I remember like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like grade B Batman here. Like this is, I mean, I guess later on you can appreciate the Bale voice, the Batman voice.
Yeah, because in Batman Begins, it's not as bad as in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. It gets worse.
He whispers and, I don't know. It was jarring to see that for the first time, and not to see a traditional Batmobile. I remember that.
Yeah.
I wasn't the greatest fan of the Tumbler.
Right.
I was like,
yeah, same here.
And so it was just like, I didn't mind the story. I like Scarecrow. I thought the guy that played Scarecrow did a good job. I just remember the voice and the Tumbler. I was like, I just do not like.
There was a lot that kind of catches you off guard. It was almost the Man of Steel treatment of kind of like, oh, this is different.
And yeah, because you got to remember the last one we saw is Batman versus Robin.
Right.
So it's jarring.
Batman and Robin.
Did I say Batman versus Robin?
Yeah.
Batman v. Robin. Batman v. Robin. Dawn of Ice.
That would have been awesome.
So you got to understand that's the last Batman movie you see, and then you see this one.
Right.
It does get a little jarring, especially when you were a kid, and like those colors and everything were kind of cool in some instance and stuff like that. And then you see the super serious dark one.
Right.
And the voice and everything.
There was a lot that catches you off guard. His cowl, his suit is a little off.
And Ra's al Ghul not being immortal was kind of throwing me off a little bit.
Yeah, there was a lot in that. But as we
I wasn't ready for that
entire...
realism in a story yet. So,
no shit.
I was expecting Ra's al Ghul to be immortal and all
right.
this, but no, he's just some fucking ninja.
Yep, some
samurai,
crazy dude.
Liam
I think
Neeson
the movie, not to go too far into this, I know
this is an honorable mention.
I know. I just wanted to give this quick story because it for us. It would have been on the in 2005 after seeing it would have been on the worst origin movie list, and it's come a long way after the trilogy. After we saw Christopher Nolan's Vision, come to full circle, he had 3 fucking movies.
Yeah, we were originally dickheads from.
Anyway. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you're number 6, or do you have another honorable mention?
I have one more honorable mention. This one was really tough, but it was Deadpool. It was hard not to. Matt looks like he's gonna backhand me. Really, really hard. I wanted to add this. It's probably Matt's number 1.
I feel like I'm hyperventilating right now. Like all the oxygen just got sucked out of my.
I absolutely love that movie. It's hilarious. It's, to me, Deadpool. The reason why it's only an honorable mention. I think Matt's gonna die. Matt. Clear.
Snyder cut. I just gotta survive till then.
Yeah, please. I can't do the show on my own. It's awkward. I've heard you try to do it.
Well, you know.
So the one thing, just real quick on Deadpool, for me, it kind of stands on its own because it's like fourth wall breaking, and it can do so much more than
it gives variety.
It does, absolutely. But it can do so much more that other films can't. It has so much more leeway that other films really can't. It can't make fun of itself. It can't. So it's on its own. It just stands. It stands on its own. And it's a fantastic movie. And this actually at one point was my number 3. And it fell because I was like really just trying to figure out how I like these movies. So anyways, on to number 6.
Yeah, go ahead, dickface.
Well, I have to jump to my number 6?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I don't know.
This isn't tit for tat.
Okay, fine. Okay. Then I'll do my number 6. My number 6, Wonder Woman.
Wow. Our list is going to be... Okay, go ahead.
So, originally, Wonder Woman was an honorable mention, and I did have Batman Begins as number 6. And then First Class was number 6. And then, so these all 3 rotated in and out. Wonder Woman is a pretty solid movie, and I think that is actually where the DCU ultimately will hopefully land, to a serious tone, still kind of dark, but it did have enough humor in it and enough levity in it to keep people engaged for the mainstream audience and stuff like that, but it also can fulfill some of the needs that I like in superhero movies, so hopefully that is ultimately the middle road that they will ride, and I think that's a nice little template that they could ride out now, but again, it is also pretty... somewhat formulaic. It does have, and I guess some people didn't see it coming, but I saw Colonel Sanders coming a mile away that he was going to be fucking Ares, and the plot development for Ares I thought was a little lackluster. I thought he had way too much potential for how they revealed him, because they had to make him a shocking reveal, and instead of just making him this sinister guy from the background that you always saw, to this like big reveal, and when that goofy Irish guy through the mustache and the helmet.
Right. Yeah, no shit. Okay, my number 6 is Superman the movie. And I really thought about this.
I was wondering.
As a Superman fan, and as someone who this movie really kicked off, honestly, what we are at right now. Ultimately, maybe it would have happened, but Superman was the...
Go ahead.
Okay. Superman was the start of comic books, and he was the start of comic book movies. And as much as of the film not being all that great, as you know, as far as like the storyline and stuff like that, very, very basic, but it was perfect for the time. Christopher Reeve was a perfect Superman for the time. What they were able to do, what they were able to accomplish, I obviously wasn't alive back then. But even as a kid, I grew up loving those movies. As shitty as some of them were, Superman 4 is my favorite, and it's awful. Most people don't even know that it exists. And I love it. I love it for what it was. Again, not the most cohesive story, but as an origin movie, and to jumpstart, you know, everything on film that we got. years ago and really branch out kind of along the lines of Star Wars. Awesome movie.
No nukes. Okay, anyway. So my number 5 is the lost movie that apparently no one in the media realizes it even fucking exists because Black Panther apparently now is the first black-led superhero blockbuster ever, but they keep forgetting about a certain movie named Blade that came out in 1998. And what I wrote down for Blade, I thought was really fucking interesting from what you just said. Superman kicked off the comic book fucking genre. Well, to me, Blade rebooted the comic book genre after we got that fucking disaster that was Batman versus Robin.
Batman and
No, Batman versus Robin.
Okay.
Batman v Robin.
Yes.
So after we got that in the 90s movies
Love
that we
that
got, I know I did too.
Guilty pleasure.
But after all the shit we got in the 90s with Steel and all that other bullshit, then you get fucking Blade. And how this is forgotten, and if you have not seen Blade, I don't care. Stop the video. Go fucking find it right now and watch it. I don't give a fuck.
Wait, don't stop our video.
No, do it.
We,
it is totally
we need the
worth
views.
it. I don't give a fuck.
True.
It is
Fantastic.
totally worth it. Blade is so fucking phenomenal. It is revolutionary for its time frame.
Absolutely.
When it came out in 1998, the fact that it was a black-led superhero, and it's not even like it's pushed like that. Mm-hmm. It's not like Black Panther where now everybody is... I color matters so fucking much now, apparently.
Right. Yeah, I think that might be why a lot of people forget about it, is because it's kind of on its own. I mean, it's like in the realm of Resident Evil, and you know, he is a superhero, but it's so different. It's done so different that people are like, oh, that's not a superhero movie, that's a vampire movie.
Funny thing is that originally Wesley Snipes was supposed to play Black Panther. And he was for Columbia Pictures, and they just weren't getting anything off the ground in the 90s, and he moved to Blade.
Thank God he did.
Oh my, Goyer wrote the script for Blade.
Genius.
So this another telling. I mean, the introduction of this movie, I will almost...
Wow, David Goyer wrote for Blade. I did not know that. Yeah, I fucking love that guy.
So... I mean, I rewatched this one because it actually has been a little bit since I seen Blade, the first one, on DVD or some kind of unrated version. I've seen it on TV a couple times.
Yeah.
Censor the shit out of it.
Yeah.
So, it's been a little bit since I actually saw fucking the rated R version. Fuck, man. Just the introduction alone. Like, when I was watching it, the introduction of him in that fucking little rave club and shit like that with all that stuff.
Oh, man.
I don't know if there's a better way to introduce a superhero than that. Like, he just comes in there. You got to understand, after the rave and everything, the guy is about to get eaten by the fucking vampires. The music is bomb. Everything is going. They just scatter. It's like perfect selling. If you know anything about wrestling, you don't have to know shit about this character other than the fact that there's a room full of vampires and they are backing away from one guy.
Right.
And he's just standing there stoic as a motherfucker. And they just like... And then a couple bum rush him, and he just fucking whipping their monkey asses. Oh, there's one part that I just like jumped out of my seat a little bit because, again, this has been a little bit since I seen it. But he starts fighting him. He's got his fucking silver spikes and shit, and he just drives the spike underneath the guy's chin, throws him up into the fucking ceiling. It's kind of like the Darth Vader thing, throwing him up into the fucking thing. But this is obviously 1998. It's just fucking phenomenal. The only thing about the movie that did annoy me actually watching this now is the only thing that dates it. CGI is not the greatest thing in the world, but it's that old 90s thing where they have those generic sound effect punch noises.
It does?
Yeah, it
wow,
has that.
I haven't seen it in a while, so that's surprising.
It has those. I was watching that. I'm like, oh, that's a tad bit annoying.
Yeah.
Because I was like, why do they keep adding that sound effect in?
Wow.
But the humor is phenomenal in it. It's so well done. It is paced so well. Fucking Whistler, Blade, the woman, the doctor that is in it. It's just fucking phenomenal. I mean, when the interaction between Whistler and fucking Blade is just fucking great. Gives him the UV lamp, and he's like, I just got this sucker running. And Blade picks it up, who's supposed to be like this superhuman strength guy, and he's like, still a little heavy, and he's like, but you're so big. Like, and then Whistler's just fucking great. He fucking comes in there as backup, blows up the wall. There's all the vampires there that are beating up Blade. He's like, catch you fuckers at the wrong time, and he just starts unloading on them and shit. I mean, this crippled motherfucking dude, it's just fucking goddamn awesome. This, in the quotes, Wesley Snipes has some of the best quotes in this thing. When he's trying to fucking beat up the vampire dude that he burnt to a crisp and shit, the cops come around the corner, they're like, freeze! And he turns around and they start unloading, but his fucking his chest guard is metal. It's like ding, 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 ding. And he looks at him, motherfuckers, you out of your goddamn mind? And like the cops just run away.
That's awesome.
Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?
And then, of course, it's in our fucking intro. One of the best lines ever is, some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Fucking phenomenal one-liners, just so fucking great. The humor is great. There's one part that I caught, I think for the first time, but he starts beating up these guys, the humans that are working for the vampires, and he's stealing their watches and shit and stuff like that. And she's like, "Oh, you're robbing him? What, are you gonna rob me too?" He's like, "How do you think we get money for this operation? What do you think, we're the March of Dimes?" like it's
That's awesome.
It's so fucking great. It is so fucking great.
Hopefully
and how it's forgotten to history, I don't know, but it kicked it off. This is what revolutionized. I mean, just imagine this. We had Batman and Robin in 1997, and then this in 1998. One of the best fucking Marvel movies, and no one knows about it. I think.
Yep. No, I agree.
Fucking insane.
I hope we can. We should try to find an excuse to like really. I mean, you went into pretty big detail there, but
it's just something I wanted to point out.
Yeah, but
all this rave about Black Panther, black-led superhero. I'm like, fucking Wesley Snipes did it in 1998, and it's a phenomenal movie. Yeah, CGI is a little outdated, but it's fucking phenomenal. It was there. It was there the whole time. Oh.
Yep, and people forget. Again, it's different film. All right, so was that it?
Yeah.
So my number 5 is Incredible Hulk. If you've listened to our worst origin movies, spoilers if you haven't, my worst origin movie was Hulk from 2003. Incredible Hulk for me is one of those kind of underrated, forgotten MCU movies. If we're sticking on that subject, because a lot of people
put the Incredible Hulk above Deadpool.
I knew this was going to be a theme. It's number 4. You're going to be like, you put that above Deadpool.
I like the Incredible Hulk, but Jesus, you put the.
I really enjoy that movie. After we did the review of it, and I think, what the fuck did we do the review of it for?
For going into Planet Hulk or whatever.
Oh yeah, yep, that's what it was. And I watched it again. There's so much that I just really enjoy about that movie. Very basic, very generic, Abomination, but there's so much that I really enjoy. It's one of those, again, that's kind of forgotten. Most people just kind of move on and don't even really think of Norton as Incredible Hulk or as the Hulk, and it stands on its own. But it was first phase of the MCU, done so well, and it's one of those movies that I can watch over and over again. Not a whole lot of flaws in it.
All right, my number 4. Now this is a little bit of a, I don't know. Shane and I were actually in length discussion about what counts as an origin movie, and like should we phrase it in a certain manner and stuff like that. And ultimately, it's my fucking list, so I don't give a shit. So I'm gonna call this an origin movie. But my number 4 is Watchmen.
All right, my number 4 is Watchmen as well. So
okay,
we might as well we'll both talk about it.
So finally, you got something right. God damn.
Wow,
Superman. Anyway, so Watchmen is my number 4. Watchmen is Shane's number 4. We reviewed it. The director's cut. Let's be precise on that. The director's cut. Phenomenal movie, and it may not be your most traditional origin movie, but you get backstory on almost every character, and that to me counts as origin.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We learn the origins of almost every character.
Yeah, well, it starts from the beginning of the Watchmen, of the group, and yeah, it's a fantastic film. As Matt said, the director's cut. It's 3 hours long. So well done, and a lot of people said that movie was unfilmable. Different directors, different studios, or maybe not different studios, but I know different directors attempted it. Okay, different studios.
When we reviewed it, it was like 3 different studios.
Oh yeah. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was just directors or studios, but yeah. So a bunch of people attempted this, and try to get it off ground, and fucking Zack Snyder was able to do it. And I watched some interviews with him recently where he's talking about it, and people are asking him like, why would you attempt this when so many people have tried, and they said it's unfilmable, and he had such respect for the comic book or the graphic novel, and he wanted to stay true to it, which he does. He does a great job of, and and people kind of critiqued him early, for 300 and Watchmen of just stealing pages from the panel. But I think that's also what you can appreciate, is that if certain directors are looking at it and they have the panel right there in front of them and they cannot bring it to life, and yet he's able to do it and do it so well and so stylistically and make a cohesive story out of it and use a lot of the dialogue and do it so well, it's a phenomenal movie.
I'm not positive, but like 300 is like 5 chapters long. It's not a very long novel.
Right.
He obviously is having to do a lot of ground there.
Yeah.
He's making up a lot of fucking ground to make a movie out of it. And then Watchmen is supposedly this unfucking filmable movie.
Yep.
That comes out.
Yep.
I've read the graphic novel. It's fucking almost verbatim of the goddamn graphic novel. All he does is shorten things up. If there's 2 encounters between between 2 characters, he makes it 1 encounter. If there's 3 encounters, 2 encounters. Like, he just sums it up the encounters a little bit so it's not so repetitive.
Right.
Like it does in the fucking graphic novel.
It's scored incredibly well. The visuals.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So both Matt and mine, number 4.
All right, my number 3 is Deadpool. So, Shane, fuck you. This is where yours should be. Deadpool is just phenomenal. It hits on every fucking level possible, with satire, violence, just everything that I could possibly fucking love. When I swear the fucking Limp Bizkit joke is still one I'm gonna do to you what Limp Bizkit did to music in the 90s.
I'm about to do to you what Limp Bizkit did to music in the late 90s. Dad?
Is one of my favorite jokes. And then he's grabbing Colossus's dick. Daddy? And like fucking, he's just, all the shit that he does, it's fucking off the charts, phenomenally great. Very well done. I kind of like those reverse origin story movies. A lot of my movies are like that are on my list here. Deadpool is already established, and you kind of get a reverse origin. Blade, already established, gets a reverse origin. It's kind of a theme throughout some of my stuff here. So
those don't count. That's why it's on my honorable mentions. I'm just kidding. Daddy?
So Deadpool, fucking phenomenal. Loved every second of it. Go ahead, give us your shitty number 3.
Wow. Okay. I'm pretty sure this is probably pretty high for you, but my shitty number 3 is Iron Man.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So I'm just guessing. So my
nothing.
Stop distracting me. I just
figured out your list.
So my number 3, Iron Man. Matt and I kind of kickstarted our whole review of the MCU with Iron Man. And both he and I going
technically
into
Civil War,
it,
but yeah, okay.
Well, retrospective,
okay.
MCU
is
is what I meant. Yeah,
there you go.
So we decided to revisit all the MCU movies. We wanted to see if they hold up. And as much as I enjoyed Iron Man the first time I viewed it, I remember playing the video game, I think for PS3, and I enjoyed that. Watching it again, I gained a whole different level of respect for it. And was like, man, this is a badass movie. It is very generic, just a generic way to start the MCU, but done so well. I mean, a very predictable villain.
It became generic afterwards because they ran that formula through the ground. But I don't think it was that generic.
Generic as far as like how he it's a guy, normal guy, gains his powers. The evil guy who's the dad's buddy turns out to be the villain.
Maybe the Obadiah Stane aspects of it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, it's
that's a
pretty
small
standard.
part of it.
Sure, but it's I don't know. It's pretty standard. Like when you're watching it, there's nothing that like blows you away. But
it blew me away.
Really? Okay.
My number 2 is Iron Man.
Perfect.
All right. I fucking easily best MCU movie to date. By far. I think the humor is perfect. I think if the MCU would do this level of humor and action, I honestly think it would be a little bit more respected and a little bit more serious.
Absolutely.
The scenes, the iconic scenes in this movie alone are played back in my head so much. That's what I mean. It doesn't feel generic because it's got a lot of things to it, a lot of scenes, a lot of moments to it, a lot of good humor, a lot of good action. The fucking jet scene.
That's my exit.
is Whiplash 1. I've got the bogey in my sights. Hit it.
Bogey just went supersonic. I got a lock.
Inbound missile.
Flares.
Wait a second. Bogey deploying flares.
Is phenomenal when he's running away from the jets. The music, the score is just done
absolutely.
well for this. For an MCU movie, it's beyond anything else in the MCU to me personally. And I fucking like when he blows up the tank with the tiny little rocket. It's a good way to show badassery because he turns around, doesn't look at the explosion, but funny at the same time.
Right.
And it's a good balance. It's a good balance. Tony Stark is that version of Tony Stark is one of the best characters outside of his superhero.
I think that's go ahead.
Best characters outside of his superhero personality.
Right.
Like there's Bruce Wayne, there's Clark Kent and stuff like that. But fuck, if I had to watch a movie between all those characters and stuff, the ones outside of
it would be
the Tony Stark story.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking hilarious. And just like when he's talking about fucking the twins, because he did for the calendar.
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
No gang symbols when the guys like that. Yeah, just down at drinking motherfucker. Awesome.
Yeah,
character.
very, very witty.
Yeah.
Like as Matt said, the humor is awesome. It is a fantastic movie.
No, I don't.
Hey, Tony. Remember me?
Sure don't. Look great, Hef.
Fucking fantastic.
Keeps going. Yeah, I think that's what I would assume what they kind of looked at and why they almost build Iron Man as kind of he catapults every aspect of the MCU for the most part. Not every aspect, but he's such an integral part of the Avengers and everything.
Ultron, Civil War.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So I think this is one of the things that he noticed. Unfortunately, after a while, kind of becomes
their evolution of the character sucks.
Right. Yeah.
He becomes a character that I don't even care about.
Yeah, the bar was set pretty high, and it just like falls from there.
Like they just did not take the character in an appealing way, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Between the PTSD bullshit in Iron Man 3 to how he is in Civil War, everybody was always talking about how, I don't know what side to pick. I'm on Cap's side. No, I'm on Tony's side. It's so hard to pick. No, motherfucker, Cap's side all the way. And that makes sense. Tony's side was stupid, irrelevant to me. It was completely retarded. I didn't like how Tony's fucking character evolved into that at all. He seemed like a quippy, dumb bitch the whole time.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Iron Man 1. Fucking phenomenal. I love it. It's very, very well done. And just imagine it was made in 2008, but yet the CGI looks better than the shit we have now.
Yeah.
It looks so good. It looks great. And the Ironmonger fight they did do that one trope I really don't like where the good guy is never at 100%.
Right.
Because he's running off an old reactor. I guess that's the generic part you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a movie trope
predictable,
there.
yeah.
But I still thought that was kind of cool. And that's actually a smart way to beat somebody, unlike the bullshit with Doctor Strange and fucking, what's that asshat? Thunder Down Under, motherfucker. Thor. Let's just blow up Asgard. All right. That's how we're going to beat her. Just fucking give up and blow up our hometown.
Yeah.
Spoiler for Thor.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I guess that speaks so highly of Iron Man 1 is that even though it is for the most part a generic movie, they throw so many curveballs and stuff in there and just kind of, from what we've got from the MCU at this point, just totally different and
also the
phenomenal.
Physicality, the brutal, like when you leave in the cave, he's beating the fuck out of all those guys.
Yeah.
Setting them on fire. And shit.
When he comes back.
Well, no, when he's first leaving.
First leaving,
with the old school fucking suit and shit. Yeah.
He
looks badass, fucking like he's,
it's awesome. Fucking awesome. All right, so I lost track. Am I on to my number 2? Because that was your number 2.
Yep.
Okay, so my number 2 is Wonder Woman. As I do agree with Matt largely, he's giving me the jerk off sign out my eye. I do agree with Matt that Ares is a lackluster villain, but even with that, you take Ares out of it. The movie itself, for what it was able to accomplish, and for towing that line and still being such an enjoyable movie. This was one of those that kind of bounced all around my list. I knew it was going to be on there, But after thinking about it and watched it again recently, and it's just, I really respect what that movie was able to do, the tones that it was able to still stick to, even though it was trying to broaden itself a little bit. The action is pretty awesome. It's so well done. I really, really like, I think it's largely Chris Pine's character that really just makes me love this movie.
Steve Trevor is pretty solid.
Yeah, and it just,
and he's dead.
Yeah, no kidding. So Wonder Woman 2 will be interesting. But again, after watching the movie again recently, I really enjoy it. It is one of my favorite movies out of all of them. I can watch it continually, and I love the themes that it sticks to, the action, no man's land scene. There's some awesome, some badass scenes in this movie, and yeah, so it made my number 2.
All right, so I'm presuming here by the stats and everything, my number 1 and Shane's number 1 is Green Lantern.
Yes, Blank Man.
Meteor Man. No.
Yeah.
Is Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
Yeah. All right, I figured that was going to be the unanimous number 1. So the thing that kicked off the DCU as we know it, the movie that...
Once Green Lantern failed.
Oh, yes.
How fitting with these origin movies.
One fails and eats shit. The other one is just fucking
epic.
Borderline epic.
Yeah.
It's just, it's... A lot of people talk about BVS being this, like, masterpiece. And it's like, nah. BVS it's not a masterpiece. There's a lot of things I can make fun of in that movie.
It's for me, it's close.
The story they're trying to tell is phenomenal.
Yeah, and a lot of
the execution though is
but a lot of the tones, a lot of the dialogue in BVS is I can see where people are coming from, but
Man of Steel. There's only like less than couple things I can really make fun of.
Yeah.
Tentacle monster at the end.
Right.
The ship.
But that's just overkill.
That's really just overkill.
It's a cool scene.
But there's a moment they could have had of perseverance, which he does have, but I think they should have just skipped to that part instead of tentacles flying everywhere.
Right.
There's that, which is, and really that's about it. I mean, that's the only really dumb scene.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of nitpick Jonathan Kent's death a little bit. So I get the argument on the other side of the heart attack, being
stop.
Despite all of his powers. As Matt said, it's so amazing what this movie, like I said, it was not hard for my number 1. I put it on such a pedestal, and every time I watch it, it just gets better. And when you compare it to every other movie, MCU, DCU, Batman v Superman is up there. Obviously, Wonder Woman's up there. There's Iron Man that's up there. There's some decent movies. I really enjoyed Spider-Man: Homecoming, but this movie is just all on its own. It's so different from my number 6 of Superman the movie that I loved, and I had such a history of. Growing up, and that was the vision of Superman that I knew and loved, and then all of a sudden I can have a newfound appreciation for the character outside of the comic books that someone decided to take in a completely different direction. And thankfully to Christopher Nolan for, number 1, making the Batman trilogy. Again, WB being a reactionary studio going, oh, let's make Superman serious. Then hopping on board and talking to Snyder with with Goyer, the three of them, kind of talking it over and figuring out their vision. Then even Zack Snyder talks about it. Christopher Nolan keeping the WB execs off his back so that they can continue and say, hey, this is how we're going to do Man of Steel. Thank God for all of that, because we ended up with, in my opinion, a masterpiece.
One of the things, I'm not going to talk too much about the movie because we already have like a fucking 8-hour review of Man of Steel. But again, as Shane pretty much reiterated everything that you need to know about the movie in general. But there's things about Zack Snyder that I think people need to know about, because I see so many questions like he doesn't know this character. He doesn't understand this character. He's not a fan of him. He wanted Superman to die in Batman versus Superman. But you listen to him. Listen to the interviews, motherfuckers. Like, people just spout shit without any confirmation. If you listen to his interviews, you get a whole new aspect of how he looks at these characters, and you understand that the psychology that he's putting out towards these characters.
A whole nother level, other than from what we've gotten with Reeve and whatever the fuck Whedon attempted. A whole different level of psychology and how the character feels and breathes. And
there's one Q&A that a lot of people should look at. It's like 4 or 5 years old. It was a Man of Steel Q&A. It was somewhere in Australia. It's like the Supernova Q&A. It's like 33 minutes long. Find it on YouTube. I'll plug in a couple of the quotes I really liked that he says. A lot of the questions he was asked, but he brings up one of my favorite ones right now about there's a filmmakers and committees. Those are the two type of movies that Hollywood makes, and committee movies suck ass. Filmmaker movies are what sell. That's the ones where you can really see the personality of the director.
Yeah.
And that was something Christopher Nolan told him. He even talks about, because people were bitching about when Man of Steel came out that he wasn't wearing the underwear on the outside. And he has a reason in this Q&A. Like, people never even look up the reason why he did it. He did it because it was a fashion thing. He wanted the suit to resemble the people of Krypton. It needed to be a heritage thing.
Right.
He wanted it to be it's not fucking Ma Kent making the shit out of a blanket or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
It's coming from his homeworld. So it wouldn't make sense that the fashion would be everybody wears their underwear on the outside.
Right.
It makes perfect sense. It makes sense, but no one ever listens to this stuff. He talks about the score, how they came up with the new score with Hans Zimmer. He talks about that, and that not to cherry pick from fucking the old series and use old things, because then it just doesn't make sense anymore. Those are nice and everything, but we got to make our own now.
Yeah, I love my favorite part when he's talking about that is they had to pretend that they found a box of comics, under their bed, and went, hey, let's make this into a movie. Nothing else existed. They can't cherry pick, because then that's going to confuse people thinking it's a part of a different series of films, which Superman Returns was. And I also love the fact that Hans Zimmer was like scared that was such a daunting task, and Zack Snyder admits to we didn't we knew this was going to be tough, and I would not have wanted to be in Hans Zimmer's shoes, basically.
He talks about how a kid asked him a question about Justice League. Is there going to be a possible Justice League? This is before they confirmed that whole cinematic universe and stuff like that. He's like, are you planning to lead up to a Justice League? And he says you have to start with Superman, and then maybe we can see what happens from there. But Superman has to work. Superman needs to have a journey for the Justice League to work. Yeah. And he's talking about it then, and it's like 4 or 5 fucking years old.
Again, welcome to Australia. With the success of Marvel's Avengers movies, are you seeing your Man of Steel being the first movie in what would hopefully become a Justice League series, with you directing and Chris Nolan producing?
Nice, I like that. Nice, very, very specific. Listen, I'd be like a liar if I said that, like, oh no, we really just intended this as a single film. It was not. No, by no means did we mean to continue this. It's a movie. No, I mean, my hope was, and I've said on numerous occasions, that there's no way to do a Justice League movie unless Superman works. You just can't do it. Without Superman, the Justice League is BS. There's like no way to do it. And really my goal was to get Superman established, and then you could start to talk about, I think, a world where, other things exist, other characters,
It's insane. He's talking about it then. He's had a plan. He's had a vision for this character for so long. It's just fucking crazy. People say that Man of Steel isn't a traditional Superman. It isn't fucking canon. It's not comic accurate. All this other bullshit that people say. And there's, in the questionnaire there, he talks about how he strictly stayed to canon. There was WB executives saying this and that, why does it have to be in Kansas? He's like, no, this is the Bible.
Right.
He says that. These comics are like the Bible. You follow this for word. I mean, yeah, we can maybe tweak with the suit a little bit here and there, but no, we have to follow this scenario, these things, by fucking word for word. He talks about that.
Reference material for Superman out there in terms of comic books. I was just wondering, is there anything in particular that you kind of used in developing the movie?
Use specifics. I think we were pretty. When you see the movie, it's very much loyal to the canon. Really, I was strict with with the canon. The studio, of course, is a little less. They were a little less like, why? Why does it have to be Kansas? Why can't it be Chicago? Why does it have to be, Jonathan and Martha? Why can't it be, whatever? On and on. Every keystone was put into some question. And for me, it was like, no, that's the Bible, that's the rules, right? That's how, if we're going to do Superman, these are the rules. So you have to, we can fuck around a little bit with the costume and stuff, but you got to be careful. Still got to be Superman, right? Like when you look at Superman, I always said, like when you look at him, no one can say, oh, I think that's the Superman I think that's his costume, right? Like, yeah, it kind of looks like, where I always, from the beginning, was like, it's got to be Superman instantly. There's no two ways about it.
No one ever listens to that shit. And then he talks about how a Superman movie needs to be made by a fan.
Yep.
A fan. A non-fan.
Another one of my favorite things that he says.
A non-fan doesn't really understand the material, so it may not be the best movie. But he makes movies for himself.
Yep.
And he puts on the screen what he would want to see.
Movie while still honoring the expectation of your audience?
Yeah, it's a good question, but I think you just have to. I think that's why it's hard for the movie to get made by sort of a non-fan, I guess is my point of view, is that for me, I really just make the movie going like, what do I want to see? Like, what do I think would be cool? Because you can't really make a movie for someone else. That's really hard to do. You can't go like, I think people would like this. There's a good chance that that's a huge disaster. And so that's really the kind of way I approached it. I have to just call bullshit on myself all the time, and whether or not that makes, like, when we do something or, make a design decision or whatever, I really just have to, evaluate it from the point of view of like what I think would be cool or not. And I just think that's the only way you could do it. You can't put it before the committee or you're screwed. They'll be like, you'll end up with like a corporate logo instead of a.
That's what you would want to see in a director, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite fucking things. I listened to that interview because it's just fascinating, and I love how he even kind of picks on the questions and stuff like that a little bit. Like, okay, fucking idiot, answering this or asking this dumb question makes me laugh. But he, again, as Matt said, he's a fan of the character, and he's read the comic books, and that's why. When people were asking him different questions of like, well, how did you approach this and approach that? And, he's basically saying what I would want to see. Nothing else has happened before. I'm pulling these comic books out and I'm going, okay, I want to make this into a movie. And what do I want to see in that? And that's what he fucking does. And people say that he's like a Michael Bay, where he's just all explosions and no story. But if that's what you think, then you watch movies way differently.
Yeah,
because there's so many. Like I said, it's a character that I thought was one way and can only be done one way. You've seen him in the animated series, Superman Returns, all these other versions, and all of a sudden it comes out. And Man of Steel comes out, and I'm like, holy fuck, like, just blew me away. And his approach to the character and trying to build and give it a backstory and a reason for everything, a reason for all of this stuff to exist, and for him to do things the way that he does them is awesome. And I fucking love it. And as Matt said, we don't want to go too long because we've done a long ass review with our good friend Nick on Man of Steel, so you can check that out. It's huge. It's way too long, but
longer than the movie.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. But again, a phenomenal movie, and it would be. I hope that Snyder can at least maybe come back for a Man of Steel 2, or somehow we can see his conclusion in the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Exactly. So that concludes our best/favorite comic book origin movies. Leading up here to Black Panther, our next podcast will be talking about Black Panther Party.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're going to have a Black Panther Party. Hopefully that's good. We'll see how that goes down. But make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube page. We're at 154 subscribers.
Woo! We were higher, then we're lower, then we're higher,
and lower. Yeah. People just leave without saying a fucking word. Why? I'd just like to know.
I know, please. There should be an exit survey. Like, if you're gonna unsubscribe, what didn't you like about this? And so that YouTube can provide us with why. Yes, exactly.
Asshats.
Yeah.
Make sure you check us out on iTunes or in the Google Play Store. Find us at Podcast Republic. It plays all Comic Movie Mark podcast.
For now. Also, be sure to leave us that all-important iTunes review. Again, it is free. We say it on every episode. Steal your mom's account. Don't really care. And you can, as an Android user, you can download iTunes onto a desktop computer and leave us a review that way as well. But we are at Comic Movie Marks. And find us on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I always say all social media, but we are on there. We're pumping some stuff out. He was on a roll for a while there, putting out some pretty sweet stuff, and now we've been sharing stuff. And anyways, we're on Instagram at Comic Movie Marks, pretty consistent.
All right. In case I don't see you.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. You're one of very few to make it to the end.
Yes, thank you very much.
Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Comic Movie Marks podcast and hit the notification bell. You know, all these fucking YouTube channels say this shit, so I'm going to say it now.
Yes, it's perfect. And if you want to hear our full podcast, you can check out our podcast on iTunes or any other podcast subscription service.
Make sure you subscribe. Thanks again.